We're now streaming live.
Woo! We are.
Wow.
As always, we had a technical glitch tonight because Facebook changed something that, well, we didn't know about. Thank goodness for my husband Google, or we would not be here.
Thank goodness for Google. Boy, I tell you. Well, we're learning. It's all learning. So
Yep.
sorry about being delayed, guys. Welcome. We're so excited you're here to join us on Wine Time. This is a space where women come together to imbibe, whether that be your favorite wine, cocktail, or mocktail. We like to vent a little, sometimes a lot, and solve the world's problems if we can. But really, most importantly, be with you guys and laugh. You know, our intention is to provide emotional and comedic relief whenever we can through expression, and create any solutions, you know, through our supportive sisterhood. So let's get started. I have the beverage tonight. Nothing super exciting, but it is in my wonderful, amazing humans mug. Thanks to Candice. And
Rachel Pinto made those.
They're beautiful. They really are. It is definitely my favorite mug. And I am drinking organic Earl Grey tea. My second cup. I need some caffeine this evening. I have not only this, but I love this. This is fun. I just have some work I have to do after. So I need to keep my energy level up. So cheers to everyone. Plus it's cold again in Louisiana, and tea always keeps me warm. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for being here. You know, besides the beverage, we always start with the big question, and you know, and that is, what are we going to talk about tonight?
I'm laughing because, you know, as girls, as women, we typically have lots to talk about, but sometimes we really have to think about what we're going to talk about.
We do.
Well, I'm back from Dallas from spending 2 weeks with my grandmother for May, and I'm still a little tired. So if I seem a little wonky, that's why. And after spending 2 weeks with her, you know, I really got to hear about everything she's accomplished in her life. I mean, we've had these conversations over the years, but never, you know, 2 weeks in a row, every day, almost 24/7, not quite, but almost. So I got to spend a lot of really quality time together. And, you know, she's accomplished a lot in her life. She's going to be 101 on July the 30th.
That's incredible.
And interesting, you know, she actually graduated from college in accounting, like in 19, I don't know, somewhere 40, 41, 42.
Wow.
Single mom with 2 kids because my grandfather was killed in World War II. So she went on to raise them, not necessarily all by herself. I know she had help from family, but still a single mom in the 1940s, you know, that was really difficult. And she was able to send those 2 kids to LSU. Both went into the medical field. One actually went on to medical school. She ran the accounting department at the local trade school. She created the budget. She kept the books. She managed and developed the staff. She was in charge of all cash. I think people used cash a lot more back then. The people at work loved her so much that they actually built her a house. So she bought a lot, and they said, "Fame, if you buy a lot, we'll build you a house."
That's
so
amazing.
She had to pay for all of the materials, but they built. She had the most precious house in Natchitoches. You know, she participated in the local theater. She definitely, I don't know how many times a week she went to church, but many. She always knew whoever was the you know, the lead priest at the time, or probably all of them, very well. She was always helping them with fundraisers, always bringing them angel food cakes. She was even, if you're familiar with Natchitoches, she was actually in Steel Magnolias. So she is a Steel Magnolia. And anyway, she's about to be 101, and everyone is just astonished by her. They're just, you know, she's led this incredible life. They really want to celebrate her. And I totally get that. I mean, why wouldn't you want to celebrate this marvelous, beautiful, beautiful life that she's had? And what's kind of made me curious, and what I've been thinking about and what we want to talk about, is that, you know, why haven't we been celebrating her all along? You know, why haven't we been so excited about all of these accomplishments along the way, you know, outside of her birthday, you know, but why not her life accomplishments? Her, you know, I'm thinking about as a young child, the countless smocked dresses that she made for my sister and I and my cousins, all the meat pie lessons, all the angel food cakes for our birthdays. You know, why don't we celebrate all of these accomplishments more readily and more often? Because as women, you know, we tend not to celebrate ourselves. And I really started thinking about that. I had a conversation with a friend of mine today, and that was part of our conversation is, you know, why don't we do that? You know, why don't we celebrate ourselves and all of the things that we do?
I know, Candice. First, let me say, I'm so happy you're back. Okay. We've missed you. But I do know that you love the time spent with your grandmother. And, you know, I was excited to hear more about your grandmother. I mean, I did not know she was in Steel Magnolias and of all her accomplishments. I mean, she is truly a Wonder Woman through and through. And, you know, so, you know, I mean, I thought that was, when you brought that up about, you know, when you said to me, why haven't we been celebrating her all along? I mean, it's true. I mean, why do we not do that? Why do we not celebrate other women? And why do we not celebrate ourselves, you know, in our accomplishments, no matter how small they are? There's, you know, so I know, you know, when you mentioned this to me, I started to really think, you know, why? I mean, why? Well, I had a thought, and you did bring up something that I totally agree with, which is, you know, you said, you know, women, maybe it's because women haven't historically or culturally been celebrated forever. I mean, we just are not. I think we're on the right track and getting better. But the truth of the matter is, outside of, let's think about it, our beauty, our birthdays, if we want to have children and become a parent, and if we're blessed to do so, you know, our babies are always celebrated, and we are celebrated when we have a child. And now I do think that sometimes women's intelligence is celebrated, which is, you know, a step in the right direction, which is great, you know.
I would
But
say maybe this much, right?
right,
Maybe.
maybe. But I definitely feel and know that in the professional arena, we're not celebrated. And we don't even celebrate ourselves in the accomplishments that we do in the professional arena. And
Right.
sometimes we don't celebrate other women, you know. So because of that, because historically and culturally, really, it's not the norm, I think. It's not natural. I mean, I was telling you, because of that, I really don't think it's natural for us to like take time and celebrate what we've done, or really acknowledge what we've done and the accomplishments that we've had as we move through life. You know, maybe at some point, like your grandmother, maybe she looks back now and thinks, wow, I've done a lot. Or, you know, maybe now that she's 101, 101 is, it's huge. And she's just an amazing lady. She really is. She's just beautiful inside and out. And so I hope that at least now she takes a look back and says, wow, I've done some things, you know.
I
But
can tell you she doesn't, but go ahead.
oh boy, oh boy. So really, I mean, I think that probably feeds into our beliefs, as far as something maybe it's a limiting belief that around, I don't know, around our worthiness, that we don't deserve it. Or maybe it's just that we feel that we're not enough, or not good enough. I think of this story when we were talking about this. I thought of this story that a friend of mine told me that happened to her. And she had landed this job and loved her work environment. And she was working towards her PhD. And she did it in such an accelerated rate that her boss had sent an email out to everyone in the company, pretty much, which you don't see often, right? Which I loved, because you don't see that, celebrating her and her accomplishment. And it really opened my eyes, because there were some women, fellow colleagues of hers, who really started to, in my opinion, they were jealous or envious, and they believed that he was playing favoritism towards her. And the work environment got, pretty stressful for her, and she ended up leaving. But the truth of the matter is, I say, well, if I would have been young at that age, and she would have been my colleague, and I would have seen that, I think it would inspire me. But I think we all go through stages, and we see things differently. But the point being is that another reason that I think that we don't celebrate other women, or sometimes ourselves also, is because we feel that we're in competition, and not only in the work environment, like that example, right? But also, I mean, think about it. We compare ourselves to other women all the time.
We do. We do, versus, in that situation, seeing someone accomplish something, and instead of, downgrading it, or, that little green-eyed monster coming out saying, wow, look what she's doing. How amazing is that? I can do that too. Instead of seeing it as a possibility.
Right.
Seeing
A
it
motivator.
Right. Seeing it as a demotivator, or a brick wall, or something to go against versus go for.
Right. So I think competition is a big deal. And I think it may stem from maybe sometimes how we compare ourselves. And I thought, okay, yes, we compare ourselves in physically, our possessions, our profession, you name it. And you name it, and we do. And the truth of the matter is that we cannot compare ourselves and our successes to others, because at the end of the day, we're all unique, and our successes and accomplishments are going to be unique. And we have to acknowledge that and embrace that and celebrate our own, accomplishments. So
Right.
maybe another reason why we do not celebrate others and ourselves is because we feel that we're in competition. And like I said, and if we're comparing ourselves in all those categories, and we don't meet up to what our expectations are, or the Joneses, or whatever it may be, we don't think it's worthy of celebrating.
Right.
But the truth is, it is. We're all unique, and our accomplishments are going to be unique. So those were my thoughts as far as limiting beliefs and just a feeling of competition. We really, as women, especially since culturally we're not celebrated enough, in my opinion, we have to pull together and support each other, encourage each other, give words of admiration, and definitely respect one another, and not wait until we're 101,
Right.
to celebrate our loved ones or ourselves,
Right. No, I
so
agree. I agree.
anyway, those were my thoughts of I started to think why, and that's what I had come up with. But do you have any ideas of how we can open ourselves up to celebrating one another and supporting each other and ourselves?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the first thing I think of is really recognition. And I don't mean recognition in that, awarding yourself, because that will come next, but really paying attention to what those, celebrations should be, what your
Mhm.
accomplishments are, really, pausing, taking the time and the emotional space to acknowledge what you've accomplished when you have to become aware of it first, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I think about Carla and I graduated from college together, and I think about my college graduation, and it was no big deal to me. I did not participate in the actual graduation. Some of my family members were there, but I was not.
Oh, yes, and your mother was so happy about that, I remember.
So happy that I wasn't there. Um, and that really was a big deal, and I wasn't there. But I didn't, in my mind, it wasn't a big deal. And why wasn't it a big deal in my mind? I don't know. We really have to, kind of wrestle with ourselves that, hey, this is a big deal and this is important and you should celebrate it, right? um I think so. I think that's important first, is really being aware of what you should be celebrating, being aware of what you're doing and what you're accomplishing is first. And then, really being grateful and appreciative for all the hard work that it took. It
Mhm.
kind of goes back to, we've talked a lot about gratitude, I think, or that attitude of gratitude, or when you're
Right.
grateful for things, more of those things come to you. And so, really, spending the time to be grateful and appreciative for what you have accomplished in that, so that, you bring more of that goodness to you. So that would kind of be a first from me. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, awareness is huge, I definitely think awareness is huge. And let's see, I thought when we were thinking about this is what I thought, that it would, I think if you're someone that has a hard time celebrating yourself because of maybe you don't feel worthy of it, or because of some limiting belief, or that that was nothing, or whatever it may be, I think it helps to recognize your accomplishment. It's easier if we ground them with values, or maybe certain traits, and because as women, we, and as humans, we want to have certain values and certain traits. So, for instance, I was thinking, okay, well, if in the case that you had a deadline that was due in 3 weeks, and your boss comes and all of a sudden says, guess what? It's due this Friday. You have 3 days. And you're like scrambling, and emotionally you've got anxiety, and you want to do the best that you can do, and you hone down, you focus, and you get the job done, and you do it so well that they're celebrating you. Accept it. Even if they don't celebrate you, accept that you did an incredible job in a short amount of time, and look at one of the traits that you admire of yourself, or want for yourself. Say it's self-discipline. Well, you practice that all the way, so if you ground it with a value or a trait that you want or are, I think it's easier to recognize it and be aware. If you say, well, what did it take to do this? It took this and this, and the type of person I am is this. And um I don't know. I think maybe it'll be easier for us to really say, you know what? Not many people can do that, for instance, and pat yourself on the back and, you know.
Right. And
So,
I think, I was kind of looking at some of the comments in Facebook, and I see that Uzma, hi Uzma, is with us.
hi, Usma. We're not very good at following Facebook and doing Zoom, so good for you, Candice.
We're gonna pat our heads and rub our tummies at the same time.
I'm gonna look right now too.
She mentioned, you kind of mentioned this before, but we're just never really taught to celebrate ourselves. We're not taught that, and she says it all comes back to self-compassion. And I totally, totally agree with that. And I think some of that self-compassion you can cultivate like through journaling, writing to yourself. For those of you who don't like to write, you can just speak it out loud, or, have that. I mean, we're always talking to ourselves, right? I mean, let's be real. We're always talking to ourselves, but to really consciously talk to ourselves, if we're not going to write to ourselves. And you can ask yourself questions, like, what would my 18-year-old self say about this? What would my 65 or 101-year-old self say about this? Kind of try to look at what you're doing from a different perspective, from that younger self that would be like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you jumped out of an airplane, or I can't believe that, you sang in front of 1,000 people, or that you gave a speech in front of 1,000 people, or that, oh my gosh, you cleaned the house in 45 minutes and it's spotless. Like, what would your younger self say? And then what would your older self say? What are they going to say as they look back? And really, kind of help yourself to recognize what you are accomplishing, and also to be very, self-compassionate. And, I was thinking about you, Karla, actually, when you were talking about grounding your accomplishments to your values, and how, I was thinking about I think it was last week. I don't know, when I was in Dallas, you suddenly were planning like this big fabulous party for your good friend. Her husband had called you and he's like, hey, I need your help. And you're like, yes, I'll do that. And you had like this severe deadline called, the party starts on a certain day at this time.
Yes.
And there was a lot to do, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure that you haven't recognized yourself or celebrated yourself.
No.
Sure. And I know that you had help, and I know that Melissa's husband, Mike, was amazing and he helped, but that, you made that happen. How amazing was that? I mean, your friend had this amazing birthday. You all got to enjoy her, for her big fun.
Celebrate her. Yes.
Celebrate her. And I was so jealous that I wasn't able to come. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. But that's a big deal. That's a big accomplishment. Celebrating somebody else, helping somebody celebrate themselves. And we don't think about that. When we're in it and we're doing it, we don't think about ourselves as being, someone who should be celebrated for what we're doing. And we should. So I think speaking or writing to yourself, kind of looking back or trying to look at it through a different perspective of when you're younger, or possibly older, or are older. Ooh, that's
a tongue twister. That, I love that, because I think I'm going to use that as a tip, because honestly, when you said, I'm not much of I don't journal, but I can ask myself the question in my head, what would my 18-year-old self say? And I'm going to tell you, probably, you're amazing is what my 18-year-old self would say to me. It's funny because asking that question of something that you have accomplished or have done to an 18-year-old, I know that most of the time I would be like, oh, wow, you're pretty amazing. And my 65-year-old self, I'm guessing, would probably be like, good, good job. And I don't know what my 65-year-old self would honestly say, but, but you do get lost. It's funny. I mean, it's funny that you thought of me with my example of bringing in a trait, but in my girlfriend's party, but that was called determination. The trait of being determined and getting, and it was so well worth it. So I think what happens is when we're living the success or have just accomplished something, however small it is in your eyes, or however, if it's a promotion, whatever it is, I think what happens is, if I were to use myself as an example of something in the professional arena, I think, giving a talk to 130 people, I would get back on the plane and make a list of what I can do better next time. And not giving myself
You're already rating yourself. You're already being critical, right?
I know, but not giving myself the emotional space or time, or being aware of, wow, I just spoke to an audience of 130 people. I am afraid of speaking, and I did it. You know what I mean? I mean, it is cause for celebration. Instead, you're right. Or I know that a lot of times I'm guilty that once I get something done, I'm like, okay, on to the next. It's like, why is that? So I love that tip of asking your 18-year-old self or your older self, because it will bring me into the moment and hopefully become more aware. So I love that, Candice. Thanks for that tip.
You're very welcome. You're very and I think, we also just have to share what we're doing. We have to share what we're proud of. We have to share our accomplishments. If we're not there yet where we're proud of ourselves, we're not easing into celebrating ourselves, we need to at least be brave enough to share with one another what we are doing, what we are accomplishing, even if it seems small. Because sometimes I think too, we think we're doing something and it's really small, but to someone else, it's very inspiring and it's big. And so we just need to celebrate ourselves, because we want to feel that. We want to feel good. And we want to, if we continue to put that celebration out for ourselves, it'll keep coming back.
I agree. Yes. It's so important. It's so important to recognize, what we do. We deserve it. We're worthy of it. To recognize our fellow women, and really, because at the end of the day, if we don't recognize or celebrate our sisters, I don't know. Imagine it. What does it do? The advantages are it would empower us and other women, and really, I think it'd free us from feeling that envy, or if it's, that it's some sort of competition. If we actually respect each other, give words of admiration, be transparent with one another, and really, support each other, because we're in it together. And so I also think that celebrating each other and giving each other encouragement, it's really a motivator. It is a motivator, and to see someone accomplish something that they've worked hard for, it's not only motivating, but it's inspiring and can really boost your success in whatever it may be, especially if it's a professional career. I don't know, and I think it'll help us as women, as females, just rock it, be accepted more and respected more in the workplace, and among men, and who knows, you know, but we have to come together. We have to be our support group, and we have to learn to celebrate each other and ourselves, for sure.
I couldn't agree more. And it makes me think of our vice president. It makes me think of Kamala. And whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, it doesn't matter.
Right.
I mean, we have a female leader in the White House.
It's amazing.
That is so exciting.
It is.
Possibilities that opens. And not only is she a female, but she's a woman of color, right? She's a woman of diversity. And that's, to me, that's just exciting. That's so exciting. And it just shows that, you know, we can do anything. We can all put on our pearls and our Converse tennis shoes.
We can. You know, and our red lipstick.
Do whatever we need to do, and not against men by any means,
right,
but with them. And, you know, to have that representation and leadership like we should, you know, for those who want it. Not everyone wants it, but if you want it, it's there for you. And if we celebrate each other, it'll only make us stronger.
Definitely, Candice. Well, I know we're probably getting close to the 30 minutes mark. Sorry we got on so late. And Candice, I'm so happy you're back. So I enjoyed talking about this. I think you opened my eyes up to something that I didn't realize, which is really that we don't take the time to celebrate ourselves and other women. So let's make that change. And please, you know, if you can, continue to refer your like-minded friends to our group. We would love to see them here with us at Dreamcatchers. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Right, Candice? Do we know what's lined up next Wednesday?
We'll see you next Wednesday. I think we're doing double wine time. Samir is in the middle of a big move. We're so excited for him. But I know that moves are also frustrating. So we have to make next week very smooth for him and not require any of his attendance. So we'll be doing another wine time. So if there's a topic that you think we should talk about, please send it to us. We would we'd love to hear what you think we should wine about, right?
Yes.
Maybe you can even join us for our wine time on our Zoom call.
That'd be great. I know, that's a good idea, Candice. Let's see if we can get someone on next week.
All right.
So, all right, everyone. Well, have a great night. Great rest of your night. I'm going to go caffeine up a little bit more, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yep. See you next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.